Salutations, traveller! Today's video is a vibe check, a state of the game, a little look into Magic the Gathering Arena, and an update on where we're at in terms of progress towards a less dogshit economy. Don't forget, if you're looking to support the channel and the content that I make, then you can check out the link in the description below to Channel Fireball Marketplace to pick up your singles for card games. Helps to support the channel. You can also pick up Ultra Pro goods in general, because they are a loving sponsor of the channel. And also, last but not least, Patreon, where you can get access to this exclusive WotC this month. This is the Soul Ring Chicken Nugget. Let's fucking go. So as the kids would call it, this is a vibe check. We are 1 month and 1 week away since the Alchemy release, where they released new digital unique cards and errated cards in the Arena client for both standard and historic, because they thought, fuck you to historic players, basically. The changes to cards that went into historic meant that some were effectively nerfed and they were not refunded with wild cards, and they therefore had an effect where you might have to change cards in your deck. So I thought, like I said, I'd take a look 1 month later at what's happened, because I'd made quite a few videos about it, talking about it. I'm conflicted about whether I should make Arena content in future because of how shit the economy is. So let's keep people up to date. Now, obviously, we need to keep in mind that it is January the 17th today as I record, so we have been, this month and a week period has been over the December-January period, the holiday period, so I do believe people are entitled to time off. Hell, I think in the modern day, most people work too much. I think late-stage capitalism has pushed us all to just work and hustle and grind, and people should take more time for self-care. That said, we had 20 days since Alchemy up until like the new year, and we've had like 17 days since the new year. There's going to be holidays in between there, but they've been back in office. So there will be progress and changes being made to Arena and plans going forward for Arena. So where are we at? Alchemy still affects historic. There have been no wildcard refunds for the nerf to historic cards like Luminarch Aspirant, for example, where it got not strictly, but pretty much almost very close to being objectively worse, nor the suspended cards in Historic. Currently only Memory Lapse, but no wild cards for those. Bans in Historic Brawl also do not still give you wild cards, even if by your play data you can tell that you predominantly or exclusively play Historic Brawl. Wild cards are still as expensive as ever, and the cost to build new decks in Historic got dearer as more and more rare and mythic wild cards, wildcard needing cards were injected with the new cards into digital. The focus on putting power into new cards that warp and change the formats is a thing, and people need wildcards for that. So wildcards have got no cheaper to make. Meanwhile, the stress on your wildcard collection goes up as more and more product is injected into the client. How expensive are wildcards to make? I'm not going to go into the fucking details right now, but Saffron Olive has talked through this on multiple videos and multiple articles. I've done a video where I opened $1,000 worth of product on a clean client. Don't worry, it wasn't my money, it was Wizards, because they gave us clients for a while. I used that quite, they probably didn't like me doing that with the thing they gave us, let's be fucking real. But I used that to see how much $1,000 would give us in terms of wild cards and set completion. That video will be linked in the description and the cards as well. So in short, the keen-eyed and keen listeners amongst you might have realized that actually nothing has changed. There has been no progress, no change in implementation at all. Okay, well, it was the holiday period. Let's cut them some slack. Has there been any announcement or acknowledgement of the overwhelming complaints from places like Reddit, Twitch, Twitter, and such? No, of course there hasn't. At least not on social media, anyway. Over the course of the last 6 months, there has been acknowledgements on stream, on the weekly MTG stream, by Blake Rasmussen, saying that there are problems with the economy. No, actually, sorry, they're not saying there's problems with the economy. He acknowledges the questions about the economy, and that they might need to talk about that at some point. Blake Rasmussen is a PR and communications head at Wizards of the Coast, and heads up the weekly MTG streams that don't always talk about Arena, but quite often do. These vague assertions that a discussion is coming of the economy, answering some of the questions that we as a community have. The first instance that I can find is back on July 30th.
Seeing a lot of questions about the economy and if future changes are expected. A lot of people asking questions about it around Jumpstart specifically, and I'll just answer that again quickly because we don't have any news on that today, and the economy is a big enough topic that we could do an entire show on it. So without specific news, we're not going to delve into that in 5 minutes, but I do see that it is a question a lot of people have, and so I may look to, we got some weeks coming up where I'm looking for topics for weekly MTG, and so maybe we'll have the Arena team back on to talk about economy and future plans and all of that. So we see that question, we hear it. It is a very big topic that is a little outside the scope of this show. So I know that's not a satisfying answer, but it won't be a satisfying answer in 5 minutes either. So we will revisit that.
I guess the following 22 weeks since this stream were all filled up with vitally important news. We just didn't find a week where you could have talked to us about it. Then on the announcement stream for Alchemy, he had this to say as well.
I want to put Ian on the spot and ask him a bunch of economy questions. We definitely recognize those are important to all of you, and I personally owe you all a show where we do talk about the arena economy as a whole. That is not this show, but I do want to acknowledge, for example, the user Brain Pry asked a really good question about the economy and pressures on wildcards and that sort of thing. They're good questions. We just don't have anyone on the show today that has that area of expertise to really dive into that, but we do owe you a show on that topic. I personally owe you all a show where we do talk about the arena economy as a whole.
The defense normally when noticing the questions about the economy in Twitch stream, and they must be aware of them on Twitter and Reddit as well, the big complaints about Alchemy affecting historic and just wildcards being quite expensive to obtain if you're trying to play constructed and not just grinding limited and so on. The often complaint, or not complaint, the often defense that they use when addressing this on stream is that they haven't got the staff on stream to talk about it. Ian Adams, for example, who's often on the stream, is not, I repeat, not in charge of the economy of MTG Arena. So I guess if you're going to at least, I don't know, put a lampshade on it, although it's not the right term, at least you're going to acknowledge it and then pay lip service to it, then walk away and not actually give us any information, then yeah, it's convenient not to have anyone on. But if you want to actually talk about these things, you can organise to have people on, right? That's probably your best course of action, is to have someone on who can talk about these things and give a meaningful answer. Interestingly, I actually don't think we've seen a front-facing member of staff or anyone that really does deal with the economy, which is fine. I mean, these people may not be game designers or even people that want to be in PR exercises anyway, right? But it does scream to me that game design and economy are two silos that don't interact or communicate very well, potentially. Again, potentially, this is all conjecture at this point, but it would explain why we have been exploring new space for products and game design, whether it be erratering or digitally unique cards or ways to give us those cards, anthologies, alchemy, and so on. And that stuff just keeps stressing and stressing the wildcard supply of most people's accounts more and more, making it more and more difficult to play. Meanwhile, the economy has literally no changes made. These people aren't the same people, so that kind of makes sense, right? Even if it is shit. So in short, where is this economy stream? When are we going to get this discussion? I use the word discussion loosely. This stream that explains away why it's so expensive is what I'm thinking. I'm going to go into real cynicism territory here, okay? I try to be of an even keel and I try to be reasonable, and I think I might be leaning into super cynicism here, but okay, ultimately I think when and if is actually a big part of this, but when, let's say when we get the economy stream, it's not going to be very good. We're not going to be very happy. And this might be why we never get one, right? Because of this kind of sentiment. I do think we're going to get told that the client is profitable, that the interaction via users, the numbers used to justify things, and bearing in mind data and numbers can often be, if you use them in the right way, they can be used to argue fucking anything if you've ever worked in a corporate environment, right? But the numbers are going to suggest that engagement is up, that spending is up, that profit is up. All of these things that mean that actually the valid criticisms, the discussion of how onboarding new players into Historic, for example, which is probably not one of their goals, but it's something that I want to happen, because I want Historic to be a format that people enjoy, especially new players too. I want us all to enjoy it. That's difficult and more difficult as the format gets more and more expensive in terms of the decks being primarily rare and mythic wildcard, like the mana bases, for example. And cards getting banned, suspended, which is basically banned, or nerfed to unplayability, which again is basically banned. Those things are legitimate criticism that are going to get shrugged off, they're going to get ignored, they're going to get just dismissed because the numbers suggest that Arena's making the money. We are often told by Wizards of the Coast when there are complaints, like The Walking Dead for example, that we are the vocal minority, because the majority are not online engaging with Magic discourse, right? Even if you get tens or hundreds of thousands of people watching the prof or myself or engaging with Twitch or Reddit or whatever, that's still only a small portion of the player base. So that's often used just to say, we don't give a shit about your very valid criticism. Now, they have acted on valid criticism before. The Walking Dead thing did lead to, the uproar did lead to them putting the cards into the list and such as well. So sometimes they do act on things, although they don't want to make it clear that they're acting on the outrage, perhaps because they don't want the outrage to be the primary way of us asking for change in plans going forward. I want to be proved wrong about a stream discussing the historic economy. I really do. I want them to turn around and take action that shows less disdain or apathy for the community and the player base and the consumer, and more so things that show solidarity for them. Like, you know, whether it be suspensions always give you wildcards back, whether it be using your play data to give you wildcards back when you get cards banned out of the only fucking format that you play. Whether that be just better weekly or daily rewards where they start to try and emulate Legends and Runeterra's economy, for example. Whether that be dusting or upshifting or whatever they end up implementing, I want it to be a thing that, whilst they're making money hand over fist, which we know they are, that's why they can ignore this shit, right? If this is a true problem that's affecting their bottom line, we would have had a response by now, but we haven't. So it's safe to assume, I believe, it's safe to assume that it's not hurting their bottom line. Oh man, I want to be wrong. I really do. Please, Wizards, please, Blake, prove me wrong. Prove to me that you don't have an apathy for those in your community that are pointing out that the eternal format on Arena is getting dearer and dearer as time goes on because your economy is not good. It's not good. To reiterate why I feel so passionate about all of this, I believe that constructed Magic is the best way to play Magic. I love Cube as well, don't get me wrong, but I do love Legacy and Modern and Pioneer and Historic and these older formats where all the game pieces interact with each other and Magic becomes quite complicated, but the complicated thing is not a negative, it's a positive. A complicated and interesting tapestry of gameplay. And the problem is that in the real world, as you go into older cards and more desirable cards, cards that are out of print, cards that are on the reserve list, and so on, staples for older formats, it becomes a real luxury hobby as the price of the older formats go up and up and up. And instead of using a digital client where scarcity is basically what you make of it, to make their non-rotating format, their version of Modern or Legacy or whatever you want to like compare it to make that affordable or accessible, instead they've just gone out of their way to make it dearer. And I want to think that it's this siloing of the two teams, the economy team and the play design or product design or game design teams, that's caused this. I want it to be negligence or just naivety or just the siloing and lack of communication. But there's a small part of me that still thinks back to when they wanted 2 wild cards per historic rare. I did a video on this asking Wizards, please don't kill historic on arrival. They wanted 2 wild cards per rare. So they were really looking for a way to monetize historic, or at least drain people's accounts to keep monetizing Arena with historic. And that is like an alarm bell. It makes me think that maybe this isn't naivety or accidental or happy coincidence, that it might be more nefarious than that. It might be purposeful. And that sucks. Anyway, that's the update on the Arena economy. Nothing has fucking changed. We've been promised a discussion about it, and we've got literally fuck all. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to smash that bell, and if you're picking up some singles for your sealed... And if you're picking up singles for your Commander deck, don't forget to use the channel fireball link in the description below to help support the channel. And Patreon links are down there too. Ta-ta for now.